morning. If everybody could find a seat, we will get started. We're a few minutes behind, but not too much. I want to try to keep us on schedule as much as possible. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Michelle Jenkins. I'm the District Director for Congressman Griffith, based here out of the Abingdon office. But I'm just going to give you a few quick logistics today before I let Congressman Griffith come up and give you some remarks. This is going to be room 1, and through this little door to the side is room 2. So when we get to the breakout sessions, you'll see on the list that you have on the agenda which will be in here and which will be in here. So feel free to choose which one you would like to go sit in on. Choose accordingly. We have some breakfast refreshments in the back. About 10:30, we'll have some other lunch type refreshments in the back, so feel free to get those as you need. When you go out the door, there's restrooms to the right, and then there's restrooms also to the left. So thank you all for being here today. Our staff cards are outside on the table, so if you don't have those and know how to get in contact with us, please pick those up, and we are happy to help you with USDA issues or anything else that you may need assistance with. So without further ado, I will turn over to Congressman Griffith this morning.
Let's have a big round of applause for Michelle. I'm excited to see so many people here today. We've got 25 folks from localities. We've got 15 other folks representing agencies. This is the kind of thing that we want to have happen. I'm glad that we're able to facilitate this. I really see myself here today more as window dressing than anything else. Michelle did all the work. The USDA is doing all the work today. We appreciate that. Thank you all for being here. And so, you know, I'm here if you have questions about things we can help, but I think that you're going to learn a lot of really good things today and maybe figure out ways to improve things for your agencies or your localities. That being said, I'm going to turn it over to Ann Herring. I assume that's what my script says. And we have just learned that she grew up in an area where my ancestors settled a long time ago, and while I didn't grow up there, a lot of the folks that she knows are actually relatives of mine. So it's always nice to make those connections as well. But thank you so much for doing this, taking your time to drive down here from the metropolis of Lexington, Virginia, and let's see what we can do to help Southwest Virginia figure out how to make things better.
There you go.
Thank you.
I think this will work, maybe. Can y'all hear me? Oh, good, it works. Well, good morning, everyone. How are you? Welcome to the USDA Rural Development Roundtable. And little did I know when I told the congressman a few minutes ago that I was from God's country, that he had roots like with my neighbor. What a surprise that was. But nonetheless, thanks to Congressman Griffin and staff and Jennifer and Michelle and Cody and everybody for helping us set everything up and sharing the good news. It's always a good day when we can share the good news about what we do at USDA Rural Development. And happy Knowledge Day. Did y'all know it's Knowledge Day? In Russia, they say September 1st is their first day of school, and they say that's their day of knowledge. So how ironic it is that y'all are getting a day of knowledge. So we thank you for coming, and we want this to be the beginning of literally your knowledge period about learning about USDA rural development. I'll remind you about that again when we get finished, because we want your creative juices to flow with ways, just like the congressman said, about ways that you can improve your community. So we hope you'll get some creative thoughts going. Let me see if we can get this thing rolling here. Who knows what we do at USDA Rural Development? A couple of you ought to know. A few of you shaking your head. Kathleen's shaking her head. She knows. Well, if you don't know, we are committed to the future of rural communities. Everything we do is all about rural. And if you did not notice, by the way, we put a number of handouts on the check-in table. We'll kind of refer to those as we go through. And I've got my partners in crime up here, but I'll introduce them here in just a second. But our mission is to create economic opportunity, improve the quality of life for all rural Americans. That's what we do. That's why we come to work every day. And we do that through more than 40 loans, loan guarantees, and grant programs to finance housing, businesses, broadband, community facilities, water and waste systems, and just about any other infrastructure need. So on any given day, that's what we do. And we'll tell you a little bit more about that. Whoops. All right. hit too quick there. All right, here we go. As Congressman Griffith said, I'm Ann Herring. I'm a Rural Development Coordinator. I sit in our Lexington satellite office. I am from Rockbridge County, as he said, near some of his kin folks. The other RD staff we have with us here this morning is Craig Barbrough. Craig, raise your hand. Craig is our area director in this part of the state. We call him Area Director and Area Director 1. His office is in Wytheville. And along with him is Robert Hilt from our Lebanon sub-area office, and Robert is one of our community program specialists. And I don't think Richard Jenkins has arrived yet. Richard is what we call our general field rep with our telecommunications branch with the Rural Utility Service, and he's in Lewisburg, West Virginia. He's a multi-state person, covers West Virginia, Virginia, and the western part of North Carolina, I believe. So hopefully he'll arrive here shortly. Okay, what we're doing at this early session is giving you kind of a high-level overview of all that we do at USDA Rural Development. And the breakouts are kind of get in the weeds, if you will, just a little bit for those of you that are gardeners or ag producers. Get down to a little bit different level, talk one-on-one maybe about potential projects that you might have, any real particular questions. So that's kind of how we've structured all this. So we have three missions, or three mission areas at Rural Development. One is our Rural Business Service, which Craig is going to talk to you all about that just here real shortly. Rural Housing Service, I'm going to talk about that briefly. And Rural Utility Service, which Robert will talk about that, as will Richard. So that's how we're split. Okay, that's sort of an old logo that we used a few years ago, but I still like it because it reminds me of kind of a small town USA, a rural community. You've got some, downtown storefronts. You've got some agriculture going on. You've got some housing, construction. You see the blueprints. There's trees, of course, the body of water, and then a pretty bright sunny day back in the background. So kind of for the day, pretend we're sort of on that path to get to those bright sunny days ahead in ways that we might be able to bring about some positive change and economic growth in your area. Okay, welcome to RD 101. I always call the high-level generic RD stuff or info that we deliver RD 101. There's a lot of RD 101s nowadays, but I'd like to share that slide with you. That's a celebratory cake that we used also in Rockbridge County where I live, in the town of Goshen, if you're familiar with Goshen. A few years ago, they were all over the news. They had big water system problems and had to haul in bottled water, seemed like forever. And so Rural Development, along with a lot of other key partners, were able to improve their water system. And this was grand opening day when they turned on the tap. So that includes us, Virginia Department of Housing and Community Development, which I'm sure you're all familiar with, Virginia Department of Health, of course, Southeast RCAP, Hurt and Profit was the engineering company, HD Waterworks, of course, was one of the suppliers, and Central Shenandoah Planning District kind of spearheaded the whole project and organized the event. But I'd like to share that with you because real often, especially when we're dealing with the community-type programs, which you'll learn a lot about today, it takes an awful lot of players like that and partners to bring these projects into place. And that's what I spend a lot of my time doing, is working with those partnerships, trying to be sure that we're keeping the latest and greatest news and events flowing. So I'd just like to share that with you because we'll mention some of these partners as we go through today. We have a large emphasis on what we now call community and economic development, which is the hat that I wear. So it's really nothing different than what we've always done. It's just we're kind of putting a phrase to it nowadays. And these are some of our partners. They're lenders, they're nonprofits, there are other state and federal agencies, there are other housing organizations, other utility organizations, our educational institutions, you name it. One of them is here in the room, Appalachian Sustainable Development. It is a big partner that we work with a lot. So Appalachian Regional Commission, of course, all the congressional staff. So just throw that up there to you because that's kind of on our list of who helps drive our programs. Now, this is where we're located. As I mentioned, Craig is the area director in Wytheville. And we are set up in 4 areas, and a few years, we had always been set up in areas, and here's Richard Jenkins. Wave, Richard. There's Richard Jenkins. Welcome, welcome. We actually dismantled our area structure a few years ago, but we're able to bring that back. And Michelle was already commenting on how glad she was that Craig's presence was down here in this part of the state. So this is where we do what we do, and we are sitting smack dab in the middle of what we call Area 1, and you can see with the color breakdown. But we do what we do from those locations. So in this part of the state, Craig has the Withfield office. Robert is over in Lebanon and staff. There's 2 satellite offices, one in Gate City and one in Christiansburg, and they do our single-family housing programs. And then we have our Lynchburg area, Harrisonburg area, and the Cortland area office. So that's how we do what we do. Okay, I want to thank the congressman and his staff for all the support that they give us, and of course all the monetary support in Washington that drives what we do. We are a lender, so the fact that we crank dollars out the door is quite important, but we try to focus on the good that those dollars do, the impact of those dollars, not so much the dollars themselves. But we can't help but brag, maybe just a little bit. And these guys like Robert are the ones that actually deliver those programs. So one of the things we're trying to do as part of our community economic development efforts are focus on the impact of those dollars. For example, we had over 4,100 new homeowners impacted by our single-family housing programs. One state, that's a lot. We had 17 communities either improved or had new access to water and sewer systems. 32,000 people in Southwest Virginia got broadband access because of some funding that Richard provided to Scott County. 661 jobs created or saved, 33 local foods projects, 9 public safety vehicles got funded. So I hope you're beginning to realize that we're not just talking about the dollars that we deliver, but what those dollars actually do. And you can see over there the breakdown of the various subcomponent programs, the dollars, and the actual awards. So awards mean the number of times that we utilize that program out in rural Virginia. For example, the largest one is our single-family housing guarantee program, and that was 3,858. So that particular program, that's how many people got served with that. So you can kind of see how that shakes down. And then here it is by service area, by our area makeup. So you can see where those dollars are going and how they're going. And Robert's programs, especially in this part of the state with community programs, water and sewer have historically been very prevalent down here. Okay. Let me talk about our rural housing programs just for a little bit. Due to the nature of the audience we have, single-family housing and multifamily housing aren't necessarily a real popular topic of interest for you all, but we'll just splash it out there to you. I've got some literature with me. We do have the breakout on the everything else category, so if you want more detailed information about that, we can certainly provide that to you and make those necessary contacts. But we do offer a direct and a guaranteed program for single-family housing, and that's for a very low up through a moderate income level. Now let me address guaranteed lending. All of our funding comes in the way of either grants, direct loans, which are loans directly from the U.S. government, or with a guaranteed loan. And a guaranteed loan is actually made by an approved lender that's backed by our guarantee. And the terms of that depend upon the various programs. So when we refer to that, that's kind of that's the breakdown. So we can provide home ownership opportunities for anyone at a very low through a moderate income category through one of those 2 ways that we do that. And that can be an existing home. They can purchase an existing home that's decent, safe, and sanitary yet modest. They can have one constructed, or they can purchase a new one. So many different opportunities there. We also have what we call a 504 repair program. That's for existing very low income homeowners that need essential improvements like health or safety hazards removed, things like that. So we have a loan and grant component to that as well. Got some examples for you. Now, this is a great picture of a partnership. Once again, this is up in my neck of the woods, but it's a great partnership that we have with Habitat for Humanity. Anybody from Habitat in here? Habitat, I know, has had a strong presence in certain areas of the state, as well as some of the other housing nonprofits down here. But this house was actually constructed by Habitat and then in turn financed by USDA Rural Development to a brand new happy homeowner. So I like to show that because that's an example of that partnership. This was county-owned property that the county actually gave to Habitat. They got CDBG monies from DHCD for some of the infrastructure with the water and sewer, the roads, and whatnot. So once again, all those partners came into play to help with this brand new neighborhood. So we're proud of that. And that's probably a more what we'd consider a guaranteed loan, a little above modest maybe. Not really above modest, but maybe a little bit bigger. Notice it's got the garage door. Still decent, safe, and sanitary. Nothing too terribly fancy. But nonetheless, great homeownership opportunity. Now, that picture's kind of hard to see there, but this is our repair program. If you look right there, right above the porch roof, you can see it kind of looks a little bit compromised. And it doesn't take much to think about if that didn't get fixed, what would happen? It gets worse and worse and worse. Next thing you know, the value of the property goes down. Next thing you know, it's going to get into the electrical system or into the foundation or the carpet, something. So without some intervention on some count, this potential to remain in that dwelling would be compromised. So we were able to go in with repair monies and voila, the brand new roof, which enabled that existing very low income homeowner to stay in that home a little bit longer, keeps the tax base up, keeps the value up, keeps everything strong for that rural community. So that's an example of what we can do with our housing repair program. Okay, we also have multifamily housing programs. Guess what? Not everybody wants to be a homeowner. Not everybody wants to mow grass and paint and fix the roof and do all that stuff. So in Congressional District 9, there are roughly 70 multifamily housing complexes that are financed by USDA Rural Development. And they, of course, provide an apartment-style affordable housing out in the rural parts of the country. And here's an example of one in Radford. We have either family-style complexes or we have elderly and disabled. Elderly, for our definitions, is having reached the age of 62. So you can see what the difference in the atmosphere or the style of living in those. But this is a perfect example there in Radford. New River 2, that's a family apartment complex. Typically, they will have playgrounds because they often have young children, of course, and they'll have community rooms where the tenants can gather and have functions and things such as that. Some of them have like not really a community garden, but like a neighborhood garden where they grow vegetables and flowers and things. Here's another one in Radford, but this is an elderly and disabled complex, New River Outlook, and they're pretty much all the same. Some are one story, some are two. They all vary. Now this is one that's currently undergoing rehab and having a nice big community room added. That's in Dublin at Plaza Apartments. Who's heard of Strike Force? Anybody? Yay! Well, notice we are sitting right smack dab in the middle of the Strike Force zone. Strike Force is an initiative of the USDA Secretary of Agriculture, Vilsack, that has highly encouraged cross-collaboration across USDA agency lines. And there's a flyer back there on the table of the alphabet soup of USDA agencies. There are many. We, rural development, are typically housed out in the rural parts of the country with what we call our sister agencies, which are the Farm Service Agency and Natural Resource Conservation Service. But there are many more. Forest Service, biggie. Food and Nutrition Service, Ag Marketing Service. A whole lot more than that. So anyway, Strike Force has encouraged us to collaborate, share customers when practical, to expand the greater good of the programs that we offer at USDA. So we were asked to come up with a target area of what we considered Strike Force in the more economically challenged areas of the state. So that's our Strike Force territory, everything in blue. So of course it's all of Southwest Virginia, most of South Side, the Northern Neck, and the Eastern Shore. Now, what's that mean? Well, it means you might get some priority points for something. You might get a little preference. If somebody said, where do we go first? We would say we go to the strike force zone. And not too long ago, we, Kathleen, I hate to pick on her, but we did a video, what we call a strike force video. It's a regional video in Appalachia. And it shows all the mighty good that we do across all those agency lines, which is, I hope, going to be released here really quickly. So stay tuned for that. One of the things that Craig and Robert will talk about is, and I will too just a little bit, is scoring of applications. And if you're in the strike force area, you can get some additional scoring points. Food supply. You know your farmer, know your food. We are the U.S. Department of Agriculture, of course, so we can't talk but just a little bit about production agriculture. We as an agency don't deal a lot with the production agriculture, but since we're the Department of Agriculture and local food is such a big issue now, I wanted to show you this slide, and there are copies back there on the table. Anybody here from Christiansburg or Montgomery County? I think somebody was on the list from Christiansburg. Christiansburg has been designated a Local Foods, Local Places awardee by EPA, Environmental Protection Agency. They have a sustainable community arm. So they're here pretty quick this fall, going to get some attention with that movement. But this shows all the various USDA programs throughout the food chain. So I encourage you to look at that. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it, but rural development, of course, is all over that. But there are many, in addition to us, that are part of programming dealing with, what we eat and how we eat, of course. So I hope you'll pick that up in the back. Anybody heard of SEC-D? Y'all don't count. Section 6025 of the 2014 Farm Bill has language in it related to what we call strategic economic and community development. And it reserves selected funds in certain programs to implement regionally based, quote, multi-jurisdictional strategic economic development plans. That's a mouthful, isn't it? The programs for fiscal year 2016, and all indicators that they will be the same for 17, which is a month from now, are community facilities, water and waste disposal, which Robert's going to tell you about, business and industry loan guarantees, which Craig will talk about, and the rural business development grants. Craig will talk about that too. So what this encourages is a multi-jurisdictional planning effort. Now, what's multi-jurisdictional? It's two or more localities. You can have a town and a county, a city and a town, a city and a county, multiple counties. You can have a whole planning district. You could have a whole congressional district. It's all about that collaborative effort, pulling stakeholders in to come up with an economic development plan. Now, many of you are familiar with the CEDS plan, Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy, that the EDA requires. That fits. Virginia is blessed that we have our whole planning district structure as a part of state government. But guess what? Some states don't have that. They don't encourage a collaborative planning effort. So Virginia is in a great position to capitalize on some of these set-aside monies. It's set-aside money. It's not additional money. But if you're making application for a project that fits this criteria, you get additional scoring points. It might mean money's faster. And I think it's the agency's way of saying that projects that are tied to a multi-jurisdictional economic development plan have a much greater likelihood of success in that particular community. So that's one of the latest and greatest things to come along. Craig, what was the manufacturing center? What was it called? One of the early projects we financed down here was a vocational technical center in Scott County, advanced manufacturing for material fabrication. Anybody familiar with that? Anyway, so we're proud that that was part of that. And that particular project was listed in the economic development plan that we used that had been, you don't just create those things overnight. There's a lot of thought process that goes into those community stakeholders, and there's goals and benchmarks and all that. So nonetheless, blessed to have put that down this way. Okay, here we go. Remember, we're traveling our little path. moving right along. That's all and we can share these, by the way. Michelle, if anybody wants all these PowerPoints, we'll be happy to share those with you. Let me get over here and pull up who's going next. All right. Let me get down. Oh, I don't know. I don't know. I might have to go to the back of the room and do that part. Well, start talking. Craig is going there and talk about rural business.
Okay, good morning, and thank you all for coming down, and I'd like to thank the Congressman's office for sponsoring this event. What I'm going to talk about briefly are the programs within the Rural Business Cooperative Program area. Some of you are familiar with them. There are guaranteed loans, there are grants, and there are direct loans. The guaranteed loan programs, those are, let's see, well, what the programs do are provide guaranteed loans, loans through intermediaries and grants in partnership with private sector and community-based organizations, and it's all to promote economic growth in rural areas and hopefully create jobs. For these business programs, the definition of a rural area is a community or town that has a population of less than 50,000. But when Robert speaks, he'll talk about community facility programs and the water and the waste programs, and they have a different definition for rural areas. Let's see. The Business and Industry Guaranteed Loan Program provides guarantees to commercial banks for loans that they make to rural businesses. Generally, it's an 80% guarantee. It's 80% of loans up to $5 million will guarantee 70% of loans up to $10 million, and over 10 up to $25 million, we guarantee 60% of the loan. Those loans, they can be used for almost any purpose that a business would need, whether it's buying land, construction, equipment, a permanent increase in their working capital. These are a couple of pictures. This picture on the left is a brewery up in Rockbridge County. It was Devil's Backbone, and they were recently sold to Anheuser-Busch for about $80 million. So that's a small business that started out that we're really happy to be able to finance that facility for them. This little part over on the right is made by Marion Mold and Tool up in Marion, and they fabricate aircraft parts, helicopter parts. That there is a part for an extruder, and then that's a hotel in Blacksburg on Price's Fork Road that it was converted over to a Comfort Inn and Suites. When I drive up and down 81, there's a lot of hotels, a lot of businesses from Bristol, Exit 5 to Roanoke that have benefited from this business and industry program. The other way that we use some of these programs are through loans to intermediaries. And main program that we have is called an intermediary relending program. We make a loan to a nonprofit organization or a locality, municipality. Our loan is for 30 years at 1% interest. The intermediary relends those funds to businesses. They can relend them to communities for community facility type projects or to purchase equipment. Loans, generally, they're $25,000 to $75,000. But actually, the maximum amount of the loan could be $150,000. The other program that we have is called a Rural Micro Entrepreneur Assistance Program, and those are loans. They're limited. It says here $25,000, but it's actually $50,000. And those micro enterprise businesses, they don't have more than 10 employees or more than $1 million a year in revenue. The other program is a Rural Business Development Grant, and a lot of people will know that as a Rural Business Enterprise Grant. That program changed names last year. What we do there is we make a grant to a nonprofit, a public body. Usually that grant is anywhere from $50,000 to $75,000. The grantee, they'll match those funds and will create a micro enterprise revolving loan program. It's probably the most successful program that we have as far as the relending programs. One, it's a grant. If you make a loan, or if the organization makes a loan and the loan fails, there's no requirement that they pay that back. It's just, we account for it, we write it off. In the loan programs, the IRP loan program, the micro entrepreneur program, if our borrower makes a loan and that loan goes bad, they still have the responsibility to repay the loan. So the grants, as you might imagine, are more popular, but they're more successful. It has a very low delinquency rate among all of our intermediaries. And the final program that we have is a Rural Economic Development Loan and Grant Program. And for that program, the intermediary has to be a rural telephone or a rural electric co-op. If it's a loan, it's a 0% interest loan with a 10-year term. And the intermediary, they pass that along to the business. It's a 0% interest loan to the business. The intermediary charges a 1% servicing fee each year. And as their borrower repays them, then they repay rural development. If it's a grant, the way that works is we will make an award to the co-op, and they commit to administer that fund as a revolving loan fund for a period of 30 years. And at the end of that 30-year period, whatever remains in that revolving fund, that's the property of the co-op. Mostly it's the loan program. We've done a few rural economic development grants, but mostly it's loans. Now, the grants that we have for business assistance are I mentioned the Rural Business Development Grant, the Rural Micro Entrepreneur Assistant Grants Program, Rural Cooperative Development Grants, and Socially Disadvantaged Group Grants. The grants, they don't go directly to a business. They go to an eligible intermediary, and we're either providing technical assistance or revolving loan programs. Some of the funds have been used to build industrial buildings in the past, some shell buildings. We've helped use those funds to develop some industrial parks. The Rural Micro Entrepreneur Assistance Program grant is a grant that we make in conjunction with a Rural Micro Entrepreneurial Assistance Loan. And what that does is it gives the intermediary that's making the loans, it gives them some funding to use for technical assistance to their borrowers. And it might be helping them to develop a business plan or some pre-loan coaching, or even after the loan's made. Those are technical assistance funds that are available to do follow-up technical assistance with the borrower. Now, there are some two programs where we make a grant directly to a business or an ag producer. And it used to be, when I first started doing this 17 years ago, people would ask about a grant to start a business up, and I would say, well, we don't have grants. We don't make grants directly to businesses. And since that time, we've added a program that does. The first program is a value-added producer grant, and that's a program where we make a grant directly to an ag producer or ag producer group. Grants are used two ways. One is for working capital, and those grants can be up to $250,000, used for processing, marketing, sales expenses. It's to help an ag producer get a existing value-added product into a new market, or it might be used to help an existing ag producer develop a new ag value-added product. The funds can't be used for equipment or construction. In order to apply for a working capital grant, you have to have either a feasibility study or a business plan. And so the other aspect of the value-added producer grant program is to make a grant for planning. These grants require a one-to-one match, so if it's a $100,000 grant, or the grantee, they have to provide $50,000. Or I'm sorry, if it's a $100,000 grant, they have to provide $100,000 to match. And the final program that we have, where we make a grant directly to either an ag producer or a small business, is a program called the Rural Energy for America program, or REAP. And that's been a really popular program. We make a grant to a small business or an ag producer to pay for up to 25% of a renewable energy system, or for energy efficiency improvements. These funds can't be used for residential improvements. We get a lot of calls for that. Can we buy some panels and put on our house and offset our electric cost? These are limited to businesses and to ag producers. Some of the renewable energy systems that we've financed have been solar energy systems, hydro, and biomass. You can see there's more than that, but those are the three primary ones. Energy efficiency improvements have been for HVAC or lighting or insulation. Grain dryers has been a big thing. Improvements to irrigation systems down in the eastern part of the state. And these are a couple examples of REAP projects. There's grain dryer improvements, poultry house improvements, some solar panels in the upper right-hand corner. And then this is some a website for these programs. I guess Robert Hilt is next.
All right, I'm Robert Hilt. I work out of the Lebanon office, but my territory basically is from Roanoke, Southwest. I work Southwest Virginia. I've been working a long time and been working water and waste and community facilities specifically for 21 years, so I see some familiar faces out in the crowd. The water and environmental programs, that's the PowerPoint they've pulled up. How many folks that are here are interested in water and sewer projects but are not familiar with our program? Okay, got one. All right, so you have potential. Two, okay. Well, we'll go through this. I was wondering because most of our projects are primarily engineer-driven. You know, entity picks an engineer and works with them, and we work closely with the engineer, and the engineers, they're a paid professional who has the knowledge of our program, and they tend to, you know, pick the funding agency that they think will work best for that project in particular, or the combination of funding agencies, because we do a lot of partnering. Lots of projects need grant dollars, and there's limited grant dollars, both at the state and the federal level. So we have to depend on leveraging and partnerships. But anyway, our mission with water and water and sewer is to increase economic opportunity, improve the quality of life. And our objective is to provide affordable financial assistance to small rural communities. I'm not going to elaborate on all of those points. Of course, the program areas Ann has already discussed. Okay, our water and waste funding history. Okay, you got fancy on me, Craig. All right. That's what we've done loan and grant wise. As you can see, historically we've done more with loan funds. That's due to the availability. And if you look at 2009 and 2010, we had some quite productive years there. The reason for that is that was due to the ARA funding, American Recovery and Reinvestment Act. We were allocated quite a bit of money, or you might have called it stimulus money, and funded a lot of projects, a lot of good projects. In fact, you know, you can see 2014 we didn't have quite as much activity. And we attributed that probably to the fact that we were so productive the prior years, especially the ARA years. There were some projects that moved forward quicker than they ordinarily would have. 2015 we were back more to a typical year, and 2016 we probably funded about $38 million during this year, which is about 120% of our allocation. In other words, Virginia spent our full allocation, went to the National Office Reserve, and we've gotten a little more money this year. So we've had a good, productive year. Eligibility criteria. All right, the applicants must be either public bodies like a town, public service authority, or a county, or nonprofit corporations, or an Indian tribe. And within the service area for a rural utilities project must be an incorporated area with a population no greater than 10,000. And the operative word there is incorporated. If it's a city or a town, the population has to be less than 10,000. If it's a county, of course, we can exceed that level because it's not an incorporated area. Eligibility criteria. We can do water, wastewater, solid waste disposal, stormwater, drainage, and provide some money for technical assistance. Little known fact that is that we provide a good deal of money to Virginia Rural Water Association to assist with the technical assistance that they provide to water and sewer providers. Okay. Direct loans. We have 3 interest rate tiers: poverty, intermediate, and market. The interest rate is based on the service area's median household income and the project correcting a primary health or sanitary issue. If you meet those criteria, if you're correcting a health and sanitary issue and your median household income is below 80% of the state non-metropolitan income, then we can provide interest at what we call the poverty rate of interest, which for this quarter is 1.625%. And that's for a 40-year term. So that is an exceptional interest rate, especially for 40-year term. Guaranteed loans, that is an interest rate that is a program that is for probably a little bit stronger customers. We really have not made any of those in this area because everyone has always demonstrated the need for the direct loan program. But if we had someone that was strong enough, the interest rate would be negotiated between the bank and the entity seeking the assistance. And the way that that works is if the loan were to not be successful and had to be liquidated, then we would guarantee 90% of any loss. Okay, grant. Everybody wants grant dollars. Percentage is based on a comparison of the service area's median household income to the statewide median household income of $53,493. Maximum grant assistance would be 75% if you were at 80% of that figure or less and you had the primary health concern. If you did not meet the median household income criteria, then you're limited to 45% on grant eligibility. And grants, to qualify for a grant, we look at the what we call the user cost, the average user cost, and you would have to be charging rates that would equate to 1.5% of the median household income for that area. Okay, as far as grants, projects that we typically fund are 70% loan and 30% grant. The reason for that being that's the allocation that we've been getting from Congress for probably the last 4 or 5 years, and it's not likely to improve on the grant side. And as the second point there says, grants can be further limited based on similar systems cost and Virginia's allocation. Okay, pre-development planning grants. That is a program that we have that we can make money available to an entity to assist in the cost of a preliminary engineering or an environmental report. They're limited to $25,000 per grant or a max of 75% of the total cost. And the eligibilities, public bodies, nonprofits, or Indian tribes must be helping a population less than 10,000 if it's a town. If we're in a county area, then the service area that the project would be serving would have to be 10,000 or less. And the median household income needs to be less than $42,794, which is 80% of the statewide MHI. We have a search grant program, which is an exceptional deal for smaller communities. It's similar to the pre-development planning grant, only a better deal. It's for the preparation of PERs and ERs. It's a $30,000 maximum grant. We can pay 100% of the PER and ER cost. And eligibility, as I said, it's basically the same as the planning grant, only population must be under 2,500. Okay, project scoring. Things that influence how well a project will score is population. Smaller communities get more points because they are more challenged. Health and sanitary issues. If we're removing a primary health concern, project's going to score higher. Median household income, lower income, higher score. Again, a more challenged community. Other committed funds. If we have leveraging going on with other funding partners, the project's going to score a little higher. Targeted areas, that's basically strike force that Ann spoke about. If you're in a strike force area, you're going to get some additional points for that. And then if we have some regionalization going on, we will assign some points for that. If we've got some towns combining on a project or town and county combining, then we'll give some points to the project. To acquire the best financial package, you know, it takes loans and grants and other funding agencies. Some projects are just really challenged to be able to show a positive cash flow. We partner with the Department of Health, their drinking water, state revolving loan fund, and grant program. We partner with Block Grant and the ARC program, VRA, Economic Development Administration, and the Tobacco Commission. Another one that's not up there is DEQ on sewer projects. Okay, application packages. You know, things that we need just would be basic things: application for assistance, the PER, the ER, organizational documents of an entity if it's a new customer, prior year's audit and a current financial statement, and what we call a clearinghouse review by the local planning district commission, and some other forms that we take care of for you. And there's the locations of the offices. Ann already had that up on the screen earlier. Application submission, we accept applications the year round. And we have the website, and for the breakout sessions, I will have copies of this PowerPoint for folks that are interested. And again, there's some more information about the offices within the state. All right. Community programs. All right, I worked community programs up until about 8 years ago. My counterpart in Lebanon is a gentleman by the name of Dwight Pearson, and Dwight is on vacation, so I'm filling in for him today. But Dwight works this program, and it's the same mission statement for the agency, community programs, same mission statement. We do target whole communities, not individuals not individuals. We're looking to assist communities for essential community program projects. The objective: provide affordable financial assistance to small rural communities to enhance business development, improve infrastructure, create community development, provide housing opportunities. Again, applicants are the same as it was for water and waste, only faith-based organizations are added there. And we have made some loans to some organizations that met that criteria. Rural service areas. Okay, different population limit for community facilities. It's 20,000. And things that we can do. Health care. You got clinics, hospitals, ambulatory care centers, assisted living. And we've done some of those. You know, clinics that we have financed are Clinch River Health Services in Dungannon, the Meadowview First Community Center in Meadowview off of exit 24. That's a community center, but it's also a clinic that the Saltville Clinic operates, and the Laurels Assisted Living Facility in Town of Wise. I don't know if any of you are familiar with it, but we financed that. Public safety, communication centers such as 911 call centers. And my counterpart, Dwight, he has funded a lot of police vehicles. We've we'd probably do about 7 or 8 of those a year on average. Public services, telecommunications. Okay. What specifically can we do? We can finance real estate to acquire land, construct buildings, purchase equipment, and pay the related fees, legal, architectural, engineering, and an environmental assessment if needed. The interest rates. All right, that's a little bit of a misleading slide because historically, if you go back, and when I'm saying historically, I'm talking about 15, 20 years ago, the poverty rate is set at 4.5%. And, you know, if you go back 20 years ago, that was an exceptional rate. And people were glad to get 4.5%, especially for 40 years. So, and that's still set at 4.5%. Intermediate rate's 3.625%, and the market rate is 2.75%. And that can be for 40 years. Typically, like I would say historically, you know, you would be qualifying for the poverty rate if you showed more need. But the way the interest rates are right now, they're so low, our market rate is lower than the poverty rate. So essentially, everyone's getting the market rate right now. Okay, loan highlights. Guaranteed loans, I spoke about them with the water and environmental. Again, terms are negotiated between the lender and the applicant. We'll guarantee 90% of any loss. Guarantee fee is 1% of the loan amount that is paid to the bank by the customer. It can be included in the loan funds. And we cannot guarantee tax-exempt issues. Eligibility is based on population and comparison of the median household income. And for grants, we have 4 levels of participation: 75%, 55%, 35%, or 15%. And those are tied to the population and the median household income. Now the, let's see, limiting factors. Grants may be further limited by the state allocation. Grants may also be limited based on economic feasibility. And what we have been doing with our regular grant program is those have been limited to about $25,000 because what we've been getting is about $600,000 a year. So that doesn't go far across an entire state. Minimum and maximum assistance, economic impact initiative grants. The limit for those is $50,000. Again, this is some repeat information from slides previously. Of course, we can do healthcare purposes, public safety, public services. You know, we've done some county office buildings, some courthouses, some town halls. Cultural and educational. We've done a good bit of educational stuff. A lot of the stuff that's been financed at Emory and Henry. You know, that's a campus that is really changing. And we've funded the Brooks Field House and the McLaughlin Center for the Arts, and going to do some dorm renovation. And we've done some stuff with Bluefield College also. Public transportation, we've done some airport hangars, things of that nature, statewide. Again, more purposes there. Dams, you'd be surprised, it's hard to find financing for a dam. We're one of the few agencies that will do that. And we can do it with either the community facility program or the rural utility, with the determining factor being, is it going to be water that's going to be used, you know, for people to drink? If it is, then we'll do it as a rural utility program. You'll get a better interest rate and possibly some grant dollars. If it's a community facility, be a little higher interest rate. That would be for a dam that's more for flood control purposes only. Okay, what options are best for the community? Big picture approach to funding includes partnerships, you know, working with other state agencies, other federal agencies, private banks, or philanthropic organizations. Again, we accept applications year-round. We work with you at the local level, and there's the website. And then the information we've already shared.
All right, thank you. So for a little bit more logistics, we're going to take about a 15-minute break. So at 9:45, back in this room, we'll be doing broadband. In the room next to us, we'll be doing water and sewer. All of the sessions in this room will be video recorded and uploaded on our website. So if you missed something or you don't remember exactly what was said or need to see, it will be available there in a couple of days. And of course, all of the rural development folks are going to be around. So if you have a specific problem or question you need to ask them about, pull them to the side, and I know that they will be happy to help as well. So 15-minute break, and we'll start back about 9:45.